Hey there, night wanderer. Tonight, we're descending into a London that history tried to bury. Literally, we're going beneath the cobblestones, below the respectable parlors and gas-lit streets, into the forgotten depths where Victorian society's shadows grew long and strange. This is a story about survival in the dark, about the people who lived in spaces the city pretended didn't exist. Before we begin our descent, take a moment to get comfortable. Like the video if you're enjoying this journey into history's hidden places. Subscribe if you want more stories that help you drift away. And drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and whether you've ever explored old tunnels, sewers, or forgotten urban spaces. I read every single one, usually around 3 a.m. when sleep decides to be mysterious. Now, settle in. Pull your blankets close. Dim the lights or let them fade entirely. Maybe there's a fan humming nearby or rain against your window. Perfect. Tonight, you're not just a listener. You're a chronicler. Someone who stumbled into the underworld of 1880s London and decided to map what you found. Your notebook is leather-bound and water-stained. Your lamp is running low on oil. And the darkness ahead is patient. Let's begin where all descents do, with a single step downward. You stand at the entrance to a storm drain on an autumn evening in 1883. The fog is so thick you could spread it on toast. Gas lamps create golden halos that don't quite reach the ground. Behind you, London hums with its usual evening chaos. Carriages clattering, vendors shouting their final deals, the distant whistle of a train pulling into Paddington. Ahead, the drain mouth gapes like a throat. The iron grating has been pulled aside, probably by the same crew of Mudlarks who use this entrance to access the Thames shoreline during low tide. They're children mostly, scavenging for anything the river might surrender. Old coins, bits of coal, fragments of pottery that might fetch a halfpenny from the right curiosity shop. You've seen them in daylight, their feet black with river mud, their eyes old despite their young faces. But tonight, though, you're not following the Mudlarks to the river. You're going deeper. Your guide appears from the shadows so quietly you almost drop your lamp. He's a tosher, a sewer hunter who makes his living finding lost valuables in London's underground waterways. His name is Jack Blackwater, though you suspect that's not what his mother called him. He's short, wiry, with a face that looks like it's been carved from old leather and bad decisions. He carries a long pole with a hook on one end and a lantern that burns with an eerie blue-green flame. Phosphorescence, he explains, noticing your stare. Special oil, burns longer down below, and the color, well, you'll see why it helps. Jack has agreed to take you into the forgotten places for 5 shillings, more money than most working people see in a week. But you're not most people. You're a journalist, or at least you're pretending to be one. Really, you're just curious about the stories that don't make it into proper newspapers, the ones about people who vanished into the sewers and never came out. About entire communities living beneath street level, about things that should be impossible, but persist anyway. First rule, Jack says, his voice rough as gravel. Don't touch the walls unless I say it's safe. Some of the brickwork is old as the Tudors, and it's held together mostly by stubbornness and rat droppings. You nod, making a mental note. Second rule, he continues, if I say run, you run. Don't ask why, don't look back, just move. The underground has moods, and when it turns sour, questioning is a luxury we can't afford. What kind of moods? You ask. Jack's smile doesn't reach his eyes. The kind that drown you, the kind that bury you, the kind that make you wish you'd stayed upstairs with the respectable folk. He starts down the ladder bolted into the drain's side. The metal rungs are slick with moisture and something else, and organic residue that makes your hands feel greasy even through your gloves. The smell hits you about 3 rungs down. It's not just sewage, though that's certainly part of the bouquet. It's decay and dampness, rust, and things dying slowly, the accumulated breath of a city exhaling its waste into the dark. The ladder descends about 20 feet. Your lamp casts wild shadows on the curved brick walls. You can hear water moving somewhere below, not the roar of a river, but a constant whisper, like the city's secrets being passed along. About halfway down, you notice marks carved in the bricks, symbols that might be names or might be warnings, a crude drawing of a fish, a cross, something that looks like a hand with too many fingers. Tosher marks, he calls up. Territory boundaries, safe routes. Some of us are superstitious. We mark our paths so the tunnels remember us kindly.
You reach the bottom. Your boots splash into water that's only a few inches deep but feels much deeper. The tunnel stretches in both directions, disappearing into darkness that your lamp can barely dent. The ceiling is maybe 8 feet high, arched brick that sweats with condensation. The walls are stained in layers, watermarks from floods past, mineral deposits in colors that shouldn't exist underground. And here and there, that eerie phosphorescence Jack mentioned. It grows in patches like luminescent moss, casting a sickly green glow that makes everything look drowned. This is just the start, Jack says. The storm drains are practically respectable compared to what's deeper. We're in what used to be the Fleet Ditch, one of London's lost rivers. They paved over it, built streets on top, turned it into a sewer, but it remembers being a river. On certain nights, when the tide is right, it tries to flow backwards. He sets off down the left tunnel, his pole tap-tapping against the walls like a blind man's cane. You hurry to follow, not wanting to lose sight of his weird blue-green lantern. The water gets deeper as you walk, rising from your ankles to your shins. Your boots weren't meant for this. Water seeps through the seams, cold and invasive. The tunnel branches. Jack doesn't hesitate, taking the right path. The ceiling lowers slightly. You have to duck. The sound of water grows louder, more complex. It's not just one flow anymore, but many. Drips and trickles and distant rushes, a whole orchestra of liquid movement. How do you know which way to go, you ask? Smell, mostly, Jack replies. Each tunnel has its own character. This one smells like cabbage and coal, means we're under the market district. That one back there smelled like leather and ink, printers and cobblers. You learn to read the city by what it throws away. He's right. As you become more attuned to your surroundings, you start to notice the variations. Here, the water carries fragments of vegetables. There, you spot a broken shoe floating past. A doll's head bobs in an eddy, its painted eyes staring accusingly. The tunnel opens into a larger chamber. Jack holds up his lantern, and you gasp despite yourself. The room is huge, maybe 30 feet across, with a vaulted ceiling that disappears into shadow. Multiple tunnels feed into it from all directions, and in the center, there's a sort of island made of brick and accumulated debris. On this island, impossibly, there's a fire burning in a metal brazier. Around the fire sit 3 figures. "Ah," Jack says, "the crossroads court. I'd hoped we might find them here." The figures don't look up as you approach. 2 are men, 1's a woman, or at least that's your best guess. The underground has a way of blurring such distinctions. They're dressed in layers of rags and salvaged clothing, everything dark with moisture and wear. The woman is cooking something in a dented pot over the fire. The smell is actually not terrible. Potatoes, maybe, and something that might be fish. "Jack Blackwater," one of the men says. His voice is surprisingly cultured, with an accent that suggests education somewhere in his past. "And he's brought a visitor. How delightful. Will your friend be staying for dinner?" "Just passing through, Professor," Jack replies, showing the surface dweller some of our less terrifying neighborhoods before we head deeper. The professor, that's apparently his name or title, finally looks up. His face is gaunt, his beard long and tangled, but his eyes are sharp. They assess you with uncomfortable accuracy. "A journalist, I'd wager, or someone who wants to be. You have that look, hungry for stories but not quite sure what to do with them once you've caught them." You're not sure what to say to that, so you just nod. The professor laughs. "Don't worry, we don't eat visitors. Not unless they're especially rube." He pauses. That was a joke. Mostly.
The woman stirs her pot and speaks without looking up. There are worse things than people down here, Jack. You know that. Why are you bringing fresh meat into the deep tunnels? Because, Jack says quietly, someone needs to write it down. Someone needs to remember that we exist. The second man hasn't spoken yet. He's younger than the others, maybe 30, with a scar that runs from his left eye to his jawline. He's whittling something from a piece of driftwood, his knife moving with practiced precision. The tide's turning, he says finally. Be at the Thames Connection before it peaks, or you'll spend the night swimming. Thank you, Silent Sam, Jack says. Always did appreciate your warnings. The chamber has multiple exits, you realize. You count 6 tunnels leading away into darkness, not including the one you came from. Each tunnel mouth is marked with those strange symbols you saw earlier. Tosher's marks, territorial signs, warnings. The crossroads is one of the hubs, Jack explains, as you move on, taking a tunnel that slopes gently downward. The underground isn't just tunnels, it's a city beneath the city. People live down here, not by choice mostly, but once you're here long enough, the surface starts to seem foreign, too bright, too loud, too exposed. How many people, you ask? Jack shrugs. Hundreds at least, maybe thousands. Hard to count people who don't want to be counted. Some are criminals hiding from the law. Some are poor folk who fell through the cracks. Some are mad or made mad by living in the dark. And some... He pauses. Some say they're neither alive nor dead, that they drowned in the great stink of '58 and their spirits can't leave the sewers. You laugh nervously. Jack doesn't. The tunnel narrows again. You're walking single file now. Jack ahead, you behind. The water is deeper here, past your knees. Something brushes against your leg and you bite back a yelp. Probably just debris. Probably. Tell me about the professor, you say, partly to distract yourself from whatever just touched you. Professor Aldridge Marsh used to teach at Cambridge, or so he claims. Philosophy, ancient languages, that sort of thing. Had some kind of breakdown, lost his position, lost his family, lost everything. Been underground about 5 years now. He's one of the sane ones, believe it or not. And the woman? Martha. Don't know her full story. She doesn't talk about before. Been down here longer than anyone remembers. Some say she came underground to escape a husband who beat her. Some say she killed that husband and buried him in the tunnels. Both might be true. And Silent Sam? Jack is quiet for a moment. When he speaks again, his voice is different, softer, sadder. Sam was a tunnel digger, worked on the new tube lines they're building. There was a collapse, 8 men buried alive. Sam was the only one they dug out, and he didn't speak for a year afterward. When he finally started talking again, he couldn't bear to be above ground, said the open sky felt wrong. Now he lives at the crossroads and makes sculptures from things the sewers give him. Beautiful things, haunting. The tunnel opens into another chamber, smaller than the crossroads, but still impressive. This one has proper architecture. It's clearly part of an older sewer system, with Roman-style arches and carefully fitted stones. There's even a date carved into one wall, 1642. This is part of the Old Fleet prison sewer, Jack explains. The prison's long gone, demolished in the 1840s, but its guts remain. People forget that London is built on top of itself, layer on layer. Roman ruins under medieval buildings, under Georgian squares, under Victorian progress. The underground remembers all of it. You're about to respond when you hear something that makes your blood go cold. Singing. A woman's voice, sweet and clear, echoing through the tunnels. She's singing an old ballad, something about a sailor and his lost love. The acoustics of the underground turned the song into something ethereal, otherworldly. "Don't follow that," Jack says quickly, grabbing your arm. "Whatever you do, don't go toward the singing." "Why not? It sounds beautiful." "That's exactly why. Down here, beautiful things are the most dangerous. The singing woman, she's one of the underground's mysteries. Some say she's a ghost. Some say she's real but mad, wandering the tunnels forever looking for someone who died in the Great Stink. Some say she lures people into dead ends where the water rises and drowns them." "What do you say?" Jack's expression is grim. "I say I've known 3 men who went toward that singing. None of them came back." The song continues, growing fainter as you move away from it. You feel an almost physical pull to turn around, to follow that lovely voice. Jack's hand on your arm keeps you moving forward. "The underground plays tricks," he says. "It shows you what you want to see, hear, feel. It promises things. Most of those promises are lies." You're descending steadily now. The air is getting thicker, harder to breathe. Your lamp flickers, running low on oil, just as you feared. Jack notices. "We'll rest at the bone chamber soon. You can refill there. The bone collectors keep supplies for travelers."
The bone collectors? You'll see. The water is receding as you descend, which seems backward, but Jack explains that you're moving away from the direct sewers and into older structures, flood channels, ancient wells, forgotten crypts. The ground beneath your feet becomes less mud and more something else. You don't want to think too hard about what. Another tunnel intersection. This one has a marker, a pile of stones arranged in a careful cairn. Jack stops and adds a pebble to the pile, a ritual that seems important. "Respect," he says simply. "Someone died here. We mark the spot and add a stone when we pass. It's how we remember them." "Who was it?" "Don't know. The cairn was here when I first came underground. But someone died in this spot and someone cared enough to start the memorial. That's enough." You add your own pebble to the pile, whispering a prayer you haven't said since childhood. The underground makes you believe in old things, gods, ghosts, and the weight of untended graves. The tunnels are changing character. The brick is giving way to older stone, and then to something that might be natural cave wall. You didn't know there were caves under London, but here they are, worn smooth by ancient water that ran here long before the Romans, before the Celts, before humans named this place at all. "The bone chamber's just ahead," Jack says. "Mind yourself. The collectors can be particular." You round a corner and stop dead. The chamber is vast, cathedral-sized, and it's filled with bones. Not scattered carelessly, but arranged with artistic precision. There are sculptures made of femurs and ribs, walls decorated with skulls arranged in precise geometric patterns, arches constructed entirely from leg bones. The entire space is a monument to the dead, built by the dead for the dead. And tending this macabre garden are the bone collectors. There are 4 of them in the chamber when you enter, though you sense more in the shadows. They move with eerie synchronicity, arranging bones, cleaning skeletal fragments with careful brushes and hands, murmuring to each other in voices too low to distinguish words. They're dressed in what might have once been mourning clothes, blacks and grays gone brownish with age and dirt. Their faces are pale, either from genetics or from never seeing sunlight. Each wears a necklace of small bones, finger bones, you realize with a lurch in your stomach, threaded on leather cords. "Jack Blackwater," says the nearest collector, a woman whose age could be anywhere from 40 to 70. "You bring a surface dweller to our home. I hope they're prepared for what they'll learn." "As prepared as anyone can be," Jack replies. He dips his head respectfully. We need oil for the lamp if you can spare it, and perhaps a moment's rest before we continue down." The woman studies you with eyes that seem to see more than they should. "A chronicler," she says, not a question. "Someone who wants to write our stories. Tell me, chronicler, will you tell the truth? Or will you prettify it, make it suitable for breakfast tables and parlor conversations?" You're not sure how to answer. Finally, you settle on honesty. "I'll tell it as I see it. I can't promise how people will receive it, but I won't lie." She nods slowly. "Good. Lies are for the surface. Down here, we deal in bones, and bones don't lie." Another collector, a man, with fingers so long they look like bones themselves, brings you oil for your lamp and a cup of something warm. It smells like mushrooms and earth. You drink it gratefully, not asking what's in it. The bone chamber is even more elaborate than you first realized. There are entire alcoves decorated with skeletal art, a peacock made of ribs, its tail spread in a fan of finger bones, a garden scene with flowers constructed from vertebrae, a portrait of Queen Victoria herself, her stern face rendered entirely in carefully sorted skull fragments. "Where do all these bones come from?" you ask, then immediately wished you hadn't. The woman smiles. "Where do you think? London buries its dead, but not all burials stay buried. The city is running out of space. Graveyards are full, packed tight, and when they need room for new bodies, the old ones get relocated. Sometimes officially to ossuaries, sometimes unofficially to the sewers. Floods disturb graves, construction unearths forgotten cemeteries, and then there are the bodies that were never properly buried at all. The Thames gives up its drowned, the construction sites donate their casualties, the hospitals dispose of their anatomical specimens, and the underground provides. We are merely curators of what the city throws away." Jack touches your elbow gently. "Don't stare too long at the arrangements," he murmurs. "The collectors put messages in their patterns. Not everyone can read them, but some people see things in the bones, things that trouble them." You drag your eyes away from a particularly intricate design that seemed to be moving in your peripheral vision. "We should continue," Jack says, louder now. "We want to reach the Thames Connection before the tide peaks." "Ah, yes, the tide. It's a spring tide tonight. The moon is full, though you can't see it down here. The river will be hungry. Be careful at the connection. The river doesn't discriminate between debris and people."
She reaches into a pocket and pulls out something small, pressing it into your hand. It's a bone, small, polished smooth, with a hole drilled through one end so it could be worn as a pendant. "A gift," she says, "for luck. It was a child's finger bone once, from a girl who died in the Great Stink. We can't give her back her life, but we can give her memory passage to the surface. Carry her story with you." You close your fist around the bone, feeling its smoothness, its weight. It's both horrible and sacred. Jack leads you out through a different exit, down a tunnel that slopes more steeply. The sound of water returns, louder than before. You can feel it in the air, moisture, pressure, the sense of something vast and powerful nearby. "The Thames," Jack says. "We're approaching it now. The connection is where several major sewers meet and empty into the river. It's also where a lot of the underground's trade happens." "Trade?" "People don't just live down here," Jack explains. "They work. They buy and sell. There's a whole economy. Mudlarks bring things from the river shore, anything valuable the tide exposes. Toshers bring things from the sewers. Pure finders collect dog droppings to sell to tanners. And then there are the night soil men, the rat catchers, the bone pickers, the rag and bottle collectors. Everyone has their niche." The tunnel opens onto a site that takes your breath away. You've reached a huge brick vault, maybe 50 feet high, where 6 massive sewer pipes converge and empty through a grated opening into the Thames. The grate is partially submerged. The tide is indeed coming in.
Water surges through the gaps with impressive force, and you can see the brown waters of the river beyond glinting in the lamplight. But it's not the architecture that stuns you. It's the market. The vault has been transformed into a trading floor. There are makeshift stalls built from salvaged wood and brick. Lanterns hang from hooks driven into the walls, creating pools of light in the darkness. And people, so many people, 50 at least, maybe more, moving between the stalls, haggling, trading, talking. "Welcome to the Thames Connection market," Jack says with something like pride. "Biggest underground market in London. Opens at low tide, closes when the water rises. Everything here was found, salvaged, or stolen. Everything is for sale." You walk among the stalls in a daze. One vendor is selling old coins, neatly sorted by age and metal. Roman coins, Saxon coins, medieval pennies, modern shillings. Another has a collection of jewelry, rings, brooches, necklaces, all clearly lost or discarded, now cleaned and arranged for sale. A third stall displays pottery fragments, clay pipes, even complete bottles fished from the Thames mud. "How is any of this legal?" you ask. Jack laughs. "Legal? Friend, nothing down here is legal, but nothing's illegal either. We exist outside the law because the law doesn't acknowledge we exist. The police don't come down here. They know we're here, but as long as we don't cause trouble on the surface, they pretend we don't exist. It's an arrangement that suits everyone." A vendor calls out to you, an old woman with a face like a walnut and bright, intelligent eyes. "Something for the chronicler?" she cackles. "I have special things, true things, things that tell stories." Her stall is different from the others. Instead of obviously valuable items, she has curiosities. A child's shoe, worn smooth. A bundle of letters tied with ribbon, the paper water-stained and fragile. A pocket watch that no longer ticks. A doll with one arm missing. "These all came from the river," she says. "Each one is a story. Each one is a life. That shoe belonged to a girl who drowned in 1866 during the last great flood. The letters, love letters from a soldier to his sweetheart. He never came home from the Crimea, and she kept his letters until the day she died. Then her family threw them away, and they found their way to the river. The watch? That belonged to a banker who jumped off London Bridge in 1875. Business failure. Left 6 children. The doll? That one's older, much older. It's been in the river for 100 years at least. Sometimes, late at night, it moves on its own." You're not sure whether to believe her, but you find yourself drawn to the objects anyway. There's something profoundly sad about them. Not just things, but testimonies, evidence of lives lived and lost. "How much?" you ask, pointing to the letters. She names a price absurdly low. You pay it, feeling like you're buying responsibility as much as paper. The letters go into your bag, heavy with their untold story. The market hums with life and commerce. You see deals made with handshakes, goods exchanged for goods, money passing hands. Some transactions are straightforward. Someone needs a coat, someone else has a coat to sell. Other trades are more complex. Information for food, safe passage for secrets kept. Jack points out some of the market's regulars. There's Billy Bones, a rag-and-bone man who specializes in books rescued from flooded basements and abandoned libraries. There's Copper Tom, who sells metal salvaged from old pipes and fittings. There's the Eel Queen, who actually farms eels in a flooded section of tunnel, harvesting them to sell to restaurants that don't ask questions. And that, Jack says, lowering his voice and nodding toward a figure standing apart from the crowd, is the Sewer King. The man is tall, taller than anyone else in the vault, and dressed entirely in black. His face is hidden behind a leather mask that covers everything but his eyes and mouth. He carries a staff topped with a lantern that burns with the same blue-green phosphorescent light as Jack's. "He's not really a king," Jack murmurs, "but he's as close as we have. He settles disputes, enforces what few rules we have, makes sure the market stays peaceful. No one knows his real name. He showed up about 10 years ago, and he's been the sewer king ever since. What happens if someone breaks the rules? Jack's expression darkens. They disappear. No one knows where. Some say he has a prison in the deepest tunnels. Some say he just drowns them in the Thames. Either way, people don't test him twice. As if sensing your attention, the sewer king turns and looks directly at you. His eyes are pale, gray or blue, hard to tell in the weird light. He holds your gaze for a long moment, then nods slowly, as if acknowledging your presence, or warning you. You look away first, your heart hammering. "Come on," Jack says. "I want to show you something before the tide gets too high." He leads you to the river side of the vault, where the grating looks out onto the Thames. The water is rising steadily, already halfway up the grate. You can see boats passing, barges carrying coal, passenger ferries, even a police patrol. They're impossibly close, maybe 50 feet away, yet completely unaware of the market and all its people hidden just beneath the city's surface. "There's the upper world," Jack says quietly, "and here's the lower. They exist side by side, but they might as well be different planets." You watch a well-dressed couple on a ferry, the woman's parasol bright against the gray sky. They're laughing about something, their faces carefree. They have no idea that a few feet below their boat, there's an entire society of the forgotten and the lost. "Do you ever want to go back?" you ask Jack. "To the surface?" He's quiet for a long time. When he finally answers, his voice is soft. "Sometimes. But I've been down here so long, I'm not sure I'd fit up there anymore. Down here, I'm useful. I know the tunnels, I can guide people, find things, survive. Up there, I'd just be another poor man hoping for work, probably ending up in the workhouse. At least down here, I'm free." A bell rings. Actually, it's someone banging on a pipe with a metal rod, but it serves the same purpose. The sound echoes through the vault, and the market starts to pack up with surprising speed. The vendors cover their goods with oilcloth, secure their stalls, and begin to move toward the upper tunnels. "Tide's coming in," Jack says. "We need to move to higher ground." The water is surging through the grate now, each wave pushing further into the vault. You can feel spray on your face. The river smells of mud and rot and the accumulated filth of a million people. You climb with the crowd up a set of metal rungs bolted to the wall. The water rises behind you, filling the vault with surprising speed. Within minutes, the entire market space is underwater. You try to imagine being caught down there when the tide came in, the cold water rising, the darkness, the crushing knowledge that there's no way out.
"It happens," Jack says, reading your expression. "Not often, but it happens. Someone gets careless or unlucky. The river takes them. We find the bodies later, during low tide, if we find them at all." You've climbed maybe 30 feet into a tunnel that runs parallel to the Thames. Through openings in the brick, you can see the river flowing past, brown and thick and eternal. The tide will peak in about an hour, Jack estimates, and then begin to recede. The market will open again, as if nothing had happened. "Where are we going now?" you ask. "Deeper," Jack says. "There's something I want you to see. Something most surface dwellers never know exists." You continue through tunnels that seem to get older the further you go. The Victorian brick gives way to Georgian stone, then to older timber and packed earth. You're descending again, spiraling down through layers of London's history. "We're going to the old plague pits," Jack says, "from the Great Plague of 1665. Thousands of people buried in mass graves all over London. The city built on top of them, but the bones are still here. The dead is still here. And in some places, well, you'll see." The air changes. It becomes colder, and there's a smell, not of sewage or river mud, but of old earth and older decay. Your lamp flickers again, and you have to adjust the wick. The shadows seem to move independently of the light. You emerge into a cavern that must be natural. The walls are earth and roots, not brick or stone. The ceiling is low, forcing you to crouch. And in the center of the space,
is a pit. It's maybe 20 feet across, perfectly circular, and it descends into darkness deeper than your lamp can penetrate. Around its edge, someone has built a low wall of bones, not artfully arranged like the bone collector's work, but practical, functional, a barrier and a warning. "This is one of them," Jack says quietly. "One of the plague pits. Thousands of people down there, buried without ceremony, without markers, just piled in and covered over. The city wanted to forget about them, but the dead don't like being forgotten." "You said, in some places," you prompt. Jack nods. "In some places, things happen. Lights without source, voices without speakers, figures that might be shadows, or might be something else. I don't know if they're ghosts or just tricks of the mind. It's easy to see things that aren't there when you spend enough time in the dark. But I do know this. The plague pits should be respected. The dead deserve that much." He produces a candle from his pack, lights it from his lantern, and places it carefully on the bone wall. Other candles are already there, some burned down to stubs, others fresh. Someone has been maintaining this shrine. "It's what we do," he explains, "those of us who know. We light candles for the plague dead. It's a small thing, but it matters. Everyone should be remembered by someone." You find yourself blinking back tears. There's something overwhelmingly sad about this place. Not scary, despite the horror of thousands of bodies beneath your feet. Just sad. All those lives ended in agony, buried in haste, forgotten by history. Jack gives you a moment, then touches your shoulder. "Come on, there's more to see and the night's still young." You leave the plague pit behind, but its sadness clings to you like the damp. The tunnels continue to wind and branch. Jack navigates by memory and instinct, never hesitating, always knowing which path to take. You pass through a section where the ceiling has partially collapsed. Roots dangle down, massive oak roots, thick as your arm, pushing through from a park somewhere far above. They're covered in strange fungi that glow faintly, adding their light to your lantern. "Tree roots can go down 100 feet or more," Jack says. "They find the tunnels, the sewers, the old crypts. They drink from our water, feed on our waste. The surface and the underground are always connected, even when people don't realize it." The tunnel opens into another inhabited space. This one is smaller than the crossroads or the market, but it's clearly someone's home. There's an actual bed, battered but real, made up with blankets, a table with a lantern and what looks like knitting supplies, a small stove cobbled together from scrap metal, its chimney pipe running up through a crack in the ceiling. And sitting by the stove, an elderly woman who looks up as you enter. "Jack Blackwater, and a stranger. Come in, I just made tea." "Thank you, Grandmother Mercy," Jack says, and you realize he means it as a title, not a relationship. The woman is ancient, you'd guess 80 at least, maybe older. Her face is a map of wrinkles, but her eyes are sharp and kind. She's dressed in layers of shawls and skirts, all patched and repatched. Her hands, pouring tea into chipped cups, are steady. "You're wondering how an old woman survives down here," she says, reading your expression. "The answer is the same way everyone does, by being useful. I was a nurse on the surface back before you were born, worked in the hospitals during the cholera outbreaks. I know herbs, medicines, how to set bones and stitch wounds. Down here, that makes me valuable. People come to me when they're hurt or sick. I help when I can." "How long have you lived underground?" you ask. She considers. "Must be 15 years now, maybe 20. Time moves differently down here. I came down after my husband died. No family left, no pension, no way to pay rent. I could have gone to the workhouse, but..." She shudders.
I'd rather die free in the dark than live as a prisoner in the light. So I came below, found this space, made it home.
Her home is surprisingly cozy. Besides the furniture, there are shelves lined with bottles and jars. Her medicines, you assume. Herbs hanging from the ceiling to dry. Even a few books, their covers swollen with moisture but still readable. The underground takes care of me, she continues. People bring me food, candles, supplies. In return, I patch them up when they need it. It's a fair trade. Jack accepts his tea gratefully. You sip yours. It's weak, but hot, flavored with mint that must grow somewhere down here. The warmth is wonderful. Tell the chronicler about the children, Jack says. Grandmother Mercy's expression grows sad. Ah, yes, the lost children. They're one of the underground's great tragedies. She gestures for you to sit, and you settle onto a three-legged stool while she speaks. Children end up down here for many reasons. Some are runaways, escaping abuse, escaping workhouses, escaping poverty. Some get lost during the day and can't find their way out. Some are abandoned by parents who can't feed them. And some are born down here, children of the underground folk who've never seen the sun. How many, you ask? She shakes her head. Impossible to say. Dozens, certainly, maybe more. They live in the deeper tunnels, the areas too dangerous for most adults. They're small, fast, fearless in the way only children can be. They survive by scavenging, stealing, and helping each other. They formed their own tribes with their own rules and territories. Can't anyone help them? Help them how? Her voice is gentle but firm. Take them to the surface? Most have never known anything else. They'd be terrified of open sky, of crowds, of all the rules and expectations. Send them to orphanages or workhouses. Those places are often worse than the tunnels. At least down here, they're free. They're hungry and cold and in danger, but they're free. Jack adds, I see them sometimes flitting through the distant tunnels. They won't come close to adults. They've learned not to trust us. But sometimes I'll leave food where I know they travel. Sometimes I'll find a little gift in return, a pretty stone, a carved bit of wood. They're not animals. They're children, trying to survive the only way they know. You think about this. Children living entire lives in darkness, never knowing daylight, playing in sewers instead of parks. It's almost too sad to bear. There are groups trying to reach them, Grandmother Mercy continues. Missionaries, reformers. They come down here with lanterns and good intentions. The children avoid them. They've learned that adults with good intentions are often the most dangerous. So the children remain, part of the underground's shadow population. She refills your cup, adding a spoonful of honey from a small jar. But they survive. Against all odds, they survive. That's something, isn't it? That's worth documenting in your chronicles. You nod, making mental notes. Everything she said will go into your records, though you're not sure anyone on the surface will believe it. We should move on, Jack says reluctantly. Still want to show the chronicler the cathedral before we start the return journey. The cathedral? Grandmother Mercy looks interested. You're taking them deep, then? Be careful, Jack. The old places have long memories and short tempers. I'm always careful, Grandmother. That's not remotely true, but I appreciate the lie. She stands with surprising grace and hands you a small cloth bundle. Herbs. For nightmares. You'll have them after tonight. Everyone who goes to the cathedral does. Steep them in hot water before bed, drink the tea, and sleep with your window open. The dreams will still come, but they'll be gentler. You accept the bundle with gratitude, tucking it carefully into your bag, alongside the letters from the river and the bone from the bone collectors. Grandmother Mercy walks you to her door, an actual door, salvaged from somewhere, that fits surprisingly well in the tunnel entrance. Safe travels, she says. And chronicler, thank you for seeing us, for writing us down. We may be forgotten by the upper world, but at least you'll remember. That's more than most of us get.
The tunnel beyond her home descends steeply. You're going deeper than you've been yet, into sections of the underground that feel ancient. The brick and stonework become irregular, crude. These passages weren't built. They were dug, carved, hollowed out by desperate hands in desperate times. Medieval, Jack says, touching the wall. Maybe older. London's been a city for 2,000 years. Every generation digs, builds, buries. The underground is an archive of all that labor, all those lives. You pass through a section where the walls are scratched with graffiti spanning centuries. Medieval Latin prayers, Tudor-era declarations, Georgian poetry, Victorian obscenities, and symbols. So many symbols, overlapping and intersecting. Religious signs, occult marks, Tosher territory boundaries, the accumulated markings of everyone who ever passed through this space. It's a palimpsest, you murmur, layer upon layer. Exactly, Jack says, pleased. And like any palimpsest, if you look carefully, you can read the older layers through the newer ones. You can see what came before. The tunnel branches again. Jack takes the left path, which requires you to climb down a series of worn stone steps, so old they've been hollowed in the middle by countless feet. At the bottom, water again. But this water is different. It's still, dark, and unnaturally cold. Careful here, Jack warns. This is old flood control. Roman, we think. The water pools in these chambers and then drains slowly through channels to the river. If you fall in, the current is deceptive. It looks still, but under the surface, it'll pull you down into the drains. We've lost people here.
You hug the wall, moving carefully. The water is only a foot from the narrow path you're walking, black and mirror smooth. Your lamp reflects off its surface, doubling the light, but also doubling the shadows. Something moves in the water. Just a ripple, but enough to make your heart race. Eels, Jack says. Big ones. They thrive in these pools. The eel queen sometimes traps here. But there are other things too. Fish that shouldn't be able to survive in this environment, but do anyway. Blind white fish with teeth. People call them Thames dragons, though they're barely bigger than your hand. Have you seen them? Once. I fell in one of these pools about 3 years back, got pulled under before I could catch myself. Was sure I was done for, but I felt something, lots of somethings, bumping against me in the dark. Not attacking, just curious, maybe? Or guiding? I found a handhold, pulled myself out. When I looked back, there were these pale shapes just beneath the surface. Could have been fish, could have been something else. I didn't stay to find out. The path widens eventually, and you move away from the black pool with relief. Your clothes are soaked through now, and the cold is settling into your bones. Jack notices and offers you a flask. Rum, he says. Medicinal. Don't drink too much. It's stronger than it tastes. The rum burns going down, but it spreads warmth through your chest. You take another small sip and hand it back. We're close now, Jack says. The cathedral is just ahead. But before we go in, I need to warn you. What you see in there might not make sense, might not be possible. Your mind will try to explain it rationally, and it'll fail. That's normal. Just observe, accept. Don't try to understand everything. You're scaring me a little. Good. You should be scared. Fear is what keeps people alive down here. The tunnel opens into a space so large your lamp can't illuminate all of it. You can hear the vastness, the way sound echoes, taking seconds to return. And you can feel it, the way the air moves, the sense of enormous space pressing down and spreading out. Jack lights a torch from his lantern, a real torch wrapped in oil-soaked rags. The flame catches and spreads, suddenly bright. He holds it high and you gasp. You're standing in a cavern that must be 100 feet high and twice that across. But calling it a cavern is inadequate. It's a cathedral, just as Jack promised. A cathedral built by no human hands. The walls are natural stone, carved by ancient water into flowing organic shapes. Stalactites hang from the ceiling like stone chandeliers. Stalagmites rise from the floor like pillars in a temple. And in the center, impossible yet undeniable, is an underground river. Not a sewer or a drain, but an actual river, flowing from somewhere to somewhere else,
clear and cold and utterly alien. The Walbrook, Jack says quietly, one of London's lost rivers. Most people think it was completely covered over, turned into sewers. But down here, in the deepest places, it still flows, still remembers being wild. The acoustics are extraordinary. Every sound multiplies, harmonizes, creates a kind of natural music. The river's flow becomes a choir, your breathing becomes percussion, even your heartbeat seems to echo back from the stone. People have been coming here for a long time, Jack continues. Longer than London's been London. The Romans knew about it. We found their offerings. Coins, jewelry, small statues. The Anglo-Saxons came here, the Normans. Every age has left its marks. He walks to a flat stone near the river's edge, and you follow. The stone is covered in carvings, some fresh, some worn nearly smooth by time. Names, dates, prayers, curses. The accumulated messages of everyone who ever found this impossible place. Underground folk come here when they need something. Peace, maybe. Perspective. A reminder that the world is bigger and stranger than our small lives. I come here when I need to remember why I stay below, when the surface starts to look appealing again. You stand together in silence, watching the river flow through its cathedral of stone. The water is so clear you can see the rocks on the bottom, worn smooth by millennia. Small white fish, the Thames dragons, perhaps, swim in the current, alien and beautiful. How is this possible, you ask? How can a river flow here beneath all of London? Jack shrugs. The city is built on clay, mostly, but there are layers of gravel, sand, limestone. Water flows through them, finds its own paths. London has rivers running under it that have never been mapped, never been named. The Walbrook just happens to be one we know about. Time becomes fluid in the cathedral. You could have stood there for minutes or hours. It's impossible to tell. The darkness and the water and the stone seem to exist outside normal time, in a space where the usual rules don't apply. Eventually, Jack touches your arm. We should go. The tide will have turned by now, and I want to get you back to the market before it empties again. You take one last look at the impossible river, fix the image in your memory, and follow Jack back into the tunnels.
The return journey to the Thames Connection takes a different route. Jack explains that the tunnels connect in complex webs. There are usually multiple paths to any destination. This route takes you through smaller, tighter passages that feel older and more forgotten. You're climbing now, ascending slowly back toward the level of the sewers and storm drains. Your legs ache from hours of walking, wading, climbing. Your lamp has been refilled twice. You've lost all sense of whether it's night or day on the surface. We'll rest at the shore, Jack says. Let you see the Mudlarks' territory. The shore, he explains, is what underground folk call the Thames foreshore, the muddy banks that are exposed at low tide. It's one of the few places where the upper and lower worlds intersect regularly, where surface people and tunnel dwellers share space, even if they don't acknowledge each other. The tunnel slopes downward again, and you smell it before you see it, the thick, organic reek of river mud. Then you hear voices, lots of them, echoing in what sounds like a large space. You emerge onto a ledge about 10 feet above the exposed riverbank. The Thames at low tide is an ugly, wonderful thing. The water has receded to a channel in the river's center, exposing hundreds of yards of mud on either side. And working that mud are dozens, no, hundreds of people. These are the Mudlarks, children mostly, but also adults too old or too desperate for other work. They're spread across the mudflat like crows picking at a field, bent over, searching, searching, always searching. They're looking for anything the river gives up, Jack explains. Coins are best. There are always coins in the Thames. People drop them, throw them, lose them. But they'll take anything. Nails, buttons, bones, bits of coal, copper fittings, rope, rags. Everything has value to someone. You watch a small girl, maybe 8 years old, working near a pier support. She's barefoot, her dress ragged, her legs covered in mud up to her knees. She reaches into the ooze and pulls out something, examines it, then tucks it into a bag at her waist. She moves methodically, efficiently, covering ground in a search pattern that speaks of long practice. Is it dangerous, you ask?
besides the obvious? The mud can swallow you, Jack says. It looks solid, but in places it's not. You can sink in up to your waist, your chest. People drown in it when the tide comes back. And there are other dangers, broken glass, rusty metal, rats, disease. But for people with no other options, it's work, it's survival. Near the water's edge, you spot a different kind of operation. A group of men with a boat are working with poles and hooks, dragging something heavy through the shallow water. After several minutes of effort, they haul their prize onto the mud, a waterlogged trunk, barnacle-encrusted and ancient. River pirates, Jack says, or salvagers, depending on who you ask. They work the river at low tide, looking for anything that's sunk, lost cargo, abandoned boats, things that fell off wharves. Sometimes they find valuable stuff, sometimes they find bodies. Bodies? The Thames is London's largest cemetery, Jack says quietly. Suicides, murders, accidents, people end up in the river all the time. Most wash out to sea eventually, but some get caught in the mud, weighted down by silt. The salvagers find them. Sometimes there's a reward for recovery from the family. Sometimes there's valuables on the body. It's grim work, but someone has to do it. You watch the men open the trunk. Even from this distance, you can see the disappointment on their faces. Whatever was inside has long since rotted away or been consumed by the river. "Come on," Jack says. "I'll take you down." You descend a crude ladder, just wooden poles lashed together and anchored to the wall, onto the mud flat. Your boots sink immediately into the ooze. It's thick, viscous, and it smells like death and industry mixed together. The smell is so strong it's almost a taste. A mudlark works nearby, a boy about 12 years old, his face so dirty it's impossible to tell his features. He glances at you, takes in your obviously surface-dweller clothes, and smirks. "Careful, Toff. That mud'll ruin your fancy boots." "Already ruined," you reply, which makes him grin. "Aye, that's the spirit. You find anything good, you can trade it at the market. Fair prices, no questions. That's the rule." He goes back to his searching, his hands moving through the mud like he's reading Braille. Every few seconds he finds something, a nail here, a button there. Nothing valuable, but he adds it to his bag anyway. Everything counts.
Jack leads you along the shore, staying where the mud is somewhat firmer. You pass more mudlarks, more salvagers, more people making their living from what London throws away. Some acknowledge Jack with nods. Most ignore you both, too focused on their work. "The shore's neutral territory," Jack explains. "Anyone can work here during low tide. Underground folk, surface poor, children, adults, the mud doesn't care. There's a kind of equality in that. For a few hours, twice a day, everyone's the same. Everyone's just trying to survive." You spot something interesting, a group of people working with what look like metal detectors, though you know that technology doesn't exist yet, but they have long poles with magnets on the end, which they sweep slowly through the mud. "Looking for iron," Jack says. "Nails, tools, anything metal. The magnets pick it up and they sell it to scrap dealers. Smart technique. Easier than sorting through mud by hand." Near one of the bridge supports, you see something that stops you cold. Someone has arranged objects in the mud, coins, bones, bits of pottery, in a careful pattern that looks like a face, a very detailed face, with eyes made of shells and a mouth of red brick fragments. It's both beautiful and deeply unsettling. "Shore art," Jack says. "Some mudlarks do it. Leave their mark before the tide comes back and washes it away. It's all temporary down here. Nothing lasts. Might as well make something beautiful while you can." The tide is turning. You can sense it before you see it. The river seems to pause, holding its breath. Then, almost imperceptibly, it begins to flow the other direction. The water in the central channel starts to spread outward. "Time to go," Jack says. "The tide comes in fast. We don't want to be caught out here." You climb back up to the ledge and watch as the mudlarks notice the change. They don't panic, but they move with purpose now, making their way to the ladders and stairs that lead back up to street level. The shore empties quickly, efficiently. Everyone knows the rhythm. Everyone respects the tide. Within 20 minutes, the mudflat is deserted. The water is advancing steadily, reclaiming its territory. The face made of shells and stones disappears beneath the brown water, erased as if it never existed. And tomorrow, Jack says, they'll be back. The tide will go out, the shore will be exposed, and the cycle continues. It's been going on for centuries. It'll probably go on for centuries more. You rest on the ledge, eating bread and cheese from Jack's pack, watching the Thames fill back up. Boats begin to pass, first the smaller craft, then bigger vessels as the water deepens. A police boat goes by, 2 constables scanning the shores for anything suspicious. They don't look up at the ledge where you sit. To them, you don't exist. There are tunnels that connect to the river, old escape routes, smugglers' paths, drainage channels. When the tide is high, they flood, but when it's low, you can walk along the river's edge underground, beneath the wharves and warehouses. It's how smugglers moved cargo without being seen, how criminals escaped the law, how plague victims were secretly removed from their homes and dumped in the river. Can we go there? Jack considers. It's risky. The tunnels are in bad shape. Parts collapse regularly, and the tide timing is tricky. But yes, I can show you one. The 2 Lee Street Tunnel. It's relatively safe, and it has history. You make your way along the ledge, following it under a bridge, and then into an opening in the embankment wall. The tunnel beyond is low. You have to crouch, and it smells powerfully of river and rot. Water drips from the ceiling, and you can hear the Thames flowing just beyond the wall to your right. The tunnel walls are brick, old and deteriorating. In places you can see through gaps to the river beyond. Daylight, you realize with shock that it's daytime up there, filters through, creating patterns on the wet tunnel floor.
This tunnel was built in the 1600s, Jack says, part of the old Tooley Street complex. Warehouses, wharfs, counting houses. They stored everything here, spices, tobacco, tea, timber, and they moved it through these tunnels, away from the tax collectors and customs men. The tunnel opens into a chamber that must have been a storage room once. There are still remnants of wooden shelving on the walls, rotted and falling apart. Crates lie scattered, their contents long since looted or rotted away. And on the far wall, someone has scratched names and dates going back hundreds of years. This was a smuggler's way station, Jack explains. They'd bring cargo from ships anchored in the river through the tunnels into the warehouses. Or they'd move goods the other direction, out of the warehouses, into the tunnels, onto boats. The authorities knew it happened, but these tunnels are a maze. You can't patrol them all. You trace the names with your finger. Some are clearly smugglers' aliases. Black Tom, the Ferryman, Red Jane. Others are just initials and dates. One entry catches your eye. Thomas Bradley, pressed into service, April 1776. God save me from the sea. Pressed men sometimes hid in these tunnels, Jack says, trying to escape the press gangs that would force them into naval service. Sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they were found. Sometimes they got trapped when the tide came in and drowned without ever making it to the Navy or back to freedom. The chamber has 2 other exits besides the one you entered through. Jack points to the right one. That goes deeper into the Tooley Street complex. Miles of tunnels down there, most flooded or collapsed. Urban explorers go in sometimes. Not all of them come out. And the other one? That one goes to the execution dock, or near it. Want to see? You nod, curiosity overriding caution. The left tunnel is partially flooded, water up to your shins. You wade through it, following Jack's lamp. The ceiling gets even lower, forcing you to duck walk. Your back screams in protest. Just when you think you can't continue, the tunnel opens up. You're in a small cave-like space, right at the water's edge. Through an opening barely 3 feet wide, you can see the Thames flowing past. And directly across the water, maybe 50 yards away, you can see the old execution dock structure. They hanged pirates here, chained them to posts at low tide, and let the tide come in and drown them. Public executions. People would watch from boats. They'd leave the bodies hanging for 3 tides as a warning to other pirates. The execution dock is long abandoned now, just rotting wooden posts sticking up from the water, but you can imagine it in its heyday. The crowd, the condemned men, the slow rising water, the horror of drowning in public while your executioners watched. Captain Kidd died here in 1701. They say his ghost still walks these tunnels looking for his buried treasure. I don't know about ghosts, but I know this. These tunnels remember. They hold on to the past like the mud holds on to bones. You sit in the small cave, watching the river flow past. A large ship glides by, so close you could almost touch it. The people on deck are going about their business, completely unaware of the tunnel and the 2 people watching from it. 2 worlds, separated by a few feet of brick and centuries of forgetting. The river keeps secrets, Jack says. It takes things down, bodies, treasures, evidence of crimes. Sometimes it gives them back, but usually it keeps them. There are things in the Thames mud that would rewrite history books if they were ever found. Viking hoards, Roman treasures, murder weapons, love letters, the accumulated detritus of 2,000 years of human life. He pulls something from his pocket, a coin, green with age. Found this in a tunnel near here 5 years ago. It's Roman, 3rd century, I think. Someone dropped it, or lost it, or maybe left it as an offering, and for 1,700 years it sat in the mud, waiting. I could sell it to a collector for good money, but I keep it, a reminder that we're all just temporary. Cities rise and fall, rivers flow on.
You understand what he means. In the cathedral, in the plague pits, on the shore, in these smugglers' tunnels, everywhere you've been tonight, the message is the same. Human lives are brief, our works decay, but the earth, the water, the stone, the darkness endures. The tide is getting higher. You can see it rising against the tunnel entrance, climbing toward where you sit. We should go, Jack says, unless you want to see if Thomas Bradley's ghost needs company. You wade back through the flooded tunnel, climb through the way station chamber, and emerge into the larger passages. Your sense of direction is completely gone, but Jack navigates confidently. You're heading back toward the Thames Connection, he says. The market will be opening soon as the tide peaks and begins to fall again. The journey back feels different. You're exhausted now, your body aching, your mind struggling to process everything you've seen. The tunnels seem to stretch longer. The darkness feels heavier. Jack notices your flagging energy and slows his pace. Not much further, he says encouragingly. We'll rest at the market, get some hot food, and then I'll take you back to the surface. I don't know if I want to go back, you say, surprising yourself. Jack laughs. Everyone says that their first time down. The underground gets into your blood. But trust me, you'll want daylight eventually. You'll want clean air and dry clothes and a bed that doesn't smell like river mud. The underground is fascinating, but it's not home, not for surface folk like you. What about you? Could you ever go back? He's quiet for a long time. When he finally answers, his voice is soft. I don't know anymore. I've been down here 12 years. Started as a Tasha's apprentice when I was 15, and I never left. The surface, it's beautiful, I remember that, but it's also cruel. At least down here, the cruelty is honest. There's no pretending. No one claims to be better than they are. We're all just survivors.
You emerge into the Thames Connection vault to find the market in full swing again. The tide has turned, and the vendors are back at their stalls. The atmosphere's festival. People glad to have survived another tide cycle, ready to trade and talk and exist together for a few more hours. Jack buys you both bowls of stew from a vendor whose ingredients you decide not to question. It's hot and surprisingly tasty, with chunks of what might be fish and vegetables that probably came from the shore scavengers. You eat gratefully, feeling warmth spread through your body. The eel queen is there, her stall stacked with eels of various sizes, all still alive in buckets of water. She calls out to passers-by, advertising the freshness of her catch. A woman buys 3 eels, and the queen kills them with quick, practiced strikes, then wraps them in oilcloth. Billy Bones has his bookstall open. You browse his collection, water-damaged but readable, volumes of everything from penny dreadfuls to Shakespeare. Some books have clearly been rescued from flooded libraries or abandoned homes. Others might have been stolen. You buy a slim volume of Blake's poems for a few coins, and Billy grins. "Ah, a person of taste," he says. Blake understood. In every voice, in every ban, the mind-forged manacles I hear. He knew about the chains we wear, visible and invisible. You're about to respond when a commotion breaks out near the riverside of the vault. People are shouting, pointing at the water. You push through the crowd to see. There's something floating in the water, just beyond the grate. A shape, pale and bloated. A body. The sewer king is already there, his staff in hand. He uses the hook end to pull the body closer to the grate. Even from several feet away, you can tell it's been in the water for days. The features are distorted, unrecognizable. The clothes suggest a woman, middle-aged, dressed simply. Suicide or murder? The sewer king examines the body carefully. No obvious wounds. Could be suicide, could be an accident. Could be she was put in the river to hide something. We'll never know for certain. What happens now? You ask Jack quietly. The sewer king will report it to the river police eventually. Anonymous tip. They'll recover the body, try to identify it, notify the family if there is one, or it'll go to a pauper's grave if no one claims it. It's how we handle deaths. We don't get involved officially, but we make sure the surface knows. The crowd disperses, the excitement fading. Death is common enough down here that it doesn't hold attention long. The vendors go back to their selling, the buyers to their browsing. Life continues. But you notice Jack is quiet, his expression troubled. When you ask why, he sighs. Every body in the river was a person once, had a life, a story. Now they're just a problem to be solved, a mystery that probably won't be solved. It's the waste that bothers me, not the death. We all die. But the forgetting, the way people vanish and no one remembers them. That's why I'm documenting this, you say, so people are remembered. He nods slowly. Then make sure you do it right. Tell the truth. Don't pretty it up for your readers. The underground is brutal and beautiful, cruel and kind, horrible and fascinating, all at once. If you're going to write about us, write about all of it. I promise, you say, and you mean it. After resting and eating at the market, Jack announces that there's one more place he wants to show you before taking you back to the surface. The Workhouse Connection, he says. It's not underground exactly, but it's part of our world. You need to see it to understand the full picture. Workhouses. You know about them from newspapers and Charles Dickens novels. They're where the desperately poor go when they have no other options. They're run by the parishes, funded by taxpayers, and hated by almost everyone who has to live in them. What's the connection to the underground, you ask? Everything connects to the underground, Jack replies. The workhouses have cellars, don't they? Storage areas, coal bunkers, sometimes burial crypts for inmates who die without families to claim them. And those cellars have cracks.
gaps, ways into the tunnel system. Some workhouse inmates know about them. Some escape through them. Some hide in them during the day and return at night. And some die down there. He leads you through tunnels you haven't traveled before, gradually ascending towards surface level. The brick becomes newer, the drainage more sophisticated. You're in Victorian-era construction now, no longer the medieval or Tudor passages. Eventually, you reach a junction where a modern storm drain intersects with what looks like a cellar wall. The wall has a crack in it, not large, maybe 2 feet wide, but big enough for a person to squeeze through. This is the back way into St. Giles' Workhouse, or under it anyway. Be very quiet from here on. If we're caught, we're in serious trouble. Trespassing, breaking and entering, probably accused of theft even if we haven't taken anything. You nod, understanding. Your heart is hammering. Jack extinguishes his lantern. You do the same. In the complete darkness, he takes your hand and guides you through the crack in the wall. You scrape your shoulders on both sides, the brick rough even through your coat. Then you're through, into a space that smells of coal dust and mildew. Jack lights a match, just one, just enough to get your bearings. You're in a large cellar, the ceilings supported by wooden beams. There are piles of coal in one corner, stacks of crates in another. And on the far side, a set of stone stairs leading up. This way, Jack whispers. He lights his lamp again, but keeps it on its lowest setting, the flame barely larger than a candle. You climb the stairs carefully, each step testing for creaks before putting your full weight down. At the top is a door, old, heavy, probably not opened in years. But when Jack pushes, it swings inward with barely a whisper. Someone has oiled the hinges recently. Other people use this route, Jack murmurs. Probably inmates who know about it, maybe workhouse staff who are paid to look the other way. You're in a corridor now, proper indoor architecture. The walls are plastered, painted an institutional green that seems designed to drain all hope from a room. Gas lamps flicker at intervals, casting more shadow than light. The floor is stone, worn smooth by countless feet. From somewhere above, you hear voices. Not conversation, more like a collective murmur, the sound of many people existing in close proximity without actually communicating. And beneath that, other sounds, coughing, crying, the scrape of furniture being moved. Jack leads you along the corridor, staying close to the wall. You pass several doors, all closed. Through one, you hear children reciting something in unison, their letters perhaps, or a religious verse. Through another, the clank of industrial labor, someone working a machine of some kind.
The corridor opens into a stairwell. Jack peers up and down, then gestures for you to follow him up. You climb 2 flights, emerging into another corridor identical to the first. This one has windows, though, and through them you can see gray daylight. It must be early morning on the surface. "The men's dormitory is through there," Jack whispers, pointing to a large door. "The women's is on the other side of the building. They're kept separate, even husbands and wives. Families are broken up when they come here. It's meant to discourage people from seeking admission, but all it really does is add cruelty to desperation." He tries the dormitory door. It's not locked. Fire regulations probably. The door opens onto a sight that makes your stomach clench. The room is huge, maybe 60 feet long, and filled with beds. Iron frame beds packed so tightly together there's barely room to walk between them. In each bed is a man, or what's left of one. Some are old, their faces haggard. Some are young, but look old, worn down by poverty and work and hopelessness. A few are clearly ill, their breathing labored, their skin feverish. The The smell is overwhelming. Unwashed bodies, sickness, the particular odor of people who have given up on dignity because dignity is a luxury they can't afford. "It's 5 a.m., Jack whispers. "They'll be woken at 6 for prayers, then breakfast, gruel, bread if they're lucky, then work. 10 hours of work, whatever the guardians decide needs doing. Breaking stones, picking oakum, the laundry, the kitchen. Then evening prayers, more gruel, and bed. Every day the same. No privacy, no possessions, no freedom. This is what London offers its poor. Survival, but at the cost of everything that makes life worth living." You notice a man in the nearest bed watching you. He's middle-aged, his face deeply lined. When he sees you looking, he doesn't seem surprised or alarmed, just resigned, as if visitors appearing in the middle of the night is just another strange thing in a strange existence. "Help me," he mouths silently. But there's nothing you can do. You have no power here. You're just a chronicler, a witness. All you can offer is the promise to remember, to write it down, to make sure someone knows. Jack tugs your sleeve. Time to move on. You follow him back to the corridor, the image of that room, all those beds, all those defeated men burned into your memory. "The women's side is worse," Jack says as you descend the stairs. "Women with children, trying to keep their families together, even though the rules forbid it. Pregnant women working until they go into labor. New mothers separated from their babies after just a few weeks. It breaks something in people. Some never recover." At the bottom of the stairs, Jack stops. "There's one more place. The death ward. You need to see it." The death ward is in the basement, which makes horrible sense. Keep the dying away from the living, where their despair won't be so obvious. The room is smaller than the dormitories, with maybe 20 beds. About half are occupied. These aren't just sick people. These are people in their final days, or hours. Some are ancient, their lives simply winding down. Others are younger, victims of disease or injury, or the simple wear of poverty. A nurse moves among them, checking pulses, offering water. She looks exhausted, like she's been on duty for days. "The workhouse nurse," Jack murmurs. "Overworked, underpaid, probably the only person in this entire building who actually cares whether these people live or die." One bed holds a woman who can't be more than 30, though poverty has aged her. Her breathing is shallow, rattling. 2 small children sit beside her bed, a boy and a girl, maybe 7 and 5 years old. They're not crying. They're just sitting, holding their mother's hand, waiting for the inevitable. Her husband died in a factory accident 6 months ago. No compensation, no pension. She tried to work, but she got sick. Consumption, probably. She came here with the children because there was nowhere else to go. Now she's dying, and when she's gone, the children will become orphans. They'll likely be separated, sent to different institutions. They may never see each other again. You feel tears on your cheeks. The cruelty of it, the systematic dismantling of families, the way poverty is treated as a moral failing rather than a societal problem, it's overwhelming. "This is why people choose the underground," Jack continues. "This is what they're escaping. Yes, the tunnels are cold and dark and dangerous. Yes, we're always hungry, always at risk. But at least we're free. At least we're not in cages." A bell rings somewhere in the building, the 6 a.m. wake-up call. You hear movement above, the collective groan of hundreds of people rising from inadequate rest to face another day of institutionalized misery. "We need to leave," Jack says urgently, "now before the staff starts moving around." You hurry back down the corridors, descend the stairs to the cellar, squeeze through the crack in the wall. Only when you're back in the storm drain does Jack relight his lantern properly. I'm sorry. I know that was hard to see, but you needed to understand. The underground isn't just about adventure and mystery. It's about survival. It's about people choosing impossible circumstances over unbearable ones. You can't speak. Your throat is too tight, so you just nod. Jack gives you a moment to compose yourself, then starts walking. Come on, there's one more stop before I take you back up. The opium dens. You need to see the full spectrum, from the workhouse to the underground to the chemical escapes some people choose. The tunnels that lead to the East End have a different character than the ones you've traveled so far. They're busier, for one thing. You pass more people, most moving with purpose, some carrying bundles or pulling carts, adapted for the narrow passages. The walls are covered in more recent graffiti, much of it in languages you don't recognize. Chinese and Lascar, Indian sailors. The East End is where London's immigrant communities congregate, people from all over the empire and beyond. And where there are immigrants, there are tunnels connecting their hidden spaces to the underground proper. The air is changing, too. You smell incense, unfamiliar cooking, and something sweet and cloying that makes you slightly dizzy just from breathing it. Opium, Jack says. We're getting close to the dens. The area emerges into a chamber that's less natural cave and more adapted cellar. The walls are brick, but they've been plastered and decorated, Chinese characters painted in red and gold, paper lanterns hanging from the ceiling, even some carved wooden screens creating smaller, private spaces within the larger room. This is an opium den, but it's also a community space. There are people here doing ordinary things, cooking, talking, playing some kind of board game. And in the corners, in the spaces behind the screens, there are people smoking. The sweet smoke hangs heavy in the air. An elderly Chinese man approaches Jack. They speak briefly in a language you don't understand, though you catch your description: chronicler, observer, friend. The man looks you over carefully, then nods. You may stay, he says in accented but clear English. You may observe, but you must respect. This is sanctuary for my people. We are not criminals, despite what your newspapers say. I understand, you say. Thank you for allowing me to be here. He gestures to a corner where you can sit. Jack settles beside you, and the old man brings tea, real tea, hot and fragrant, nothing like the weak stuff served on the surface. This is Mr. Chen. He's run this place for 20 years. It's one of the East End's connecting points, part social club, part medical facility, part refuge. Medical facility, you ask? Mr. Chen nods. Opium is medicine, yes? For pain, for coughing, for many ailments. In China, we use for thousands of years. Here, English people think only for pleasure, for vice. But my people, they work hard, in the docks, in the factories, in places your people do not want to work. They hurt, they suffer. Opium helps them continue. He has a point. You know that opium is sold legally in pharmacies, that many patent medicines contain it, that even babies are given opiate syrups for teething. The stigma only seems to apply when it's consumed in places like this, by people who aren't English. Jack adds the dens serve another purpose too. They're neutral ground. Underground folk, surface poor, sailors between ships, criminals hiding from the law. Everyone can come here. No violence is permitted, no theft. Mr. Chen enforces those rules absolutely. Break them, and you're banned forever.
Sometimes banned to the river, Mr. Chen says, with a slight smile that suggests he's not entirely joking. You watch the people in the den. In one corner, two men are playing what looks like chess, though the pieces are different. Near them, a woman is cooking something in a small pot over a brazier. The smell is wonderful, making your stomach rumble despite the stew you ate earlier. Behind one of the screens, you can hear someone singing quietly in Chinese, a melancholy melody that needs no translation. And on the smoking couches, people drift in opium dreams. They're not all Chinese. You see English faces too, and Indian, and what might be Persian or Turkish. Poverty and addiction are democratic. How many of these places are there, you ask? In the East End, dozens, says. Some are just rooms and tenements. Others are elaborate setups like this one. The police know about them, but enforcement is selective. Sometimes there are raids for show. Arrests are made, fines are levied, then everything goes back to normal. It's easier to contain the trade in known locations than to drive it completely underground. Mr. Chen snorts. We are already underground. Any more under, we reach China from other direction. A young woman enters the den, carrying a child, an infant, maybe 6 months old. She looks exhausted, her clothes ragged, her face drawn with worry. She speaks to Mr. Chen in rapid Chinese, and he listens carefully, then nods, and leads her to a corner. Sick baby, Jack translates. Fever, coughing. Mr. Chen will give her medicine, herbs mostly, some opium to help the child sleep and stop the coughing. No charge. He helps his community. The woman sits with her child, rocking gently, while Mr. Chen prepares a small cup of medicine. The baby drinks it, makes a face, then settles against his mother's shoulder. Within minutes, the child's breathing eases, and he sleeps. The mother's eyes fill with tears of relief. The surface world thinks places like this are dens of iniquity, you observe. But there is kindness here, community, care. The surface world sees what it wants to see, Mr. Chen says. They see Chinese, they see opium, they see sin. They do not see people helping people. They do not see refuge for those who have nowhere else. You spend an hour in the den, observing, talking quietly with Jack and Mr. Chen. You learn about the complex networks that connect the Chinese community, how they help new immigrants find work, how they send money back to families in China, how they maintain their culture and language even as London tries to grind them down into anonymous labor. The underground is our ally, Mr. Chen explains. Police cannot easily raid here. We have many exits, many escape routes. When trouble comes, we disappear into tunnels, scattered like water. Then we come back when danger passes. The underground protects us. Eventually, Jack indicates it's time to move on. You thank Mr. Chen for his hospitality and his honesty. He bows slightly. You write truth about us, yes? Not newspaper lies. Truth. I promise, you say. He hands you something as you leave, a small jade figurine, worn smooth by many hands. For luck, for protection, for remembering that we are human, same as you. You leave the den through a different exit than you entered, emerging into a tunnel that slopes upward. The opium smoke gradually clears from your lungs, replaced by the familiar damp earth smell of the underground. That was the gentle side of opium. There's another side too. Want to see it? You nod, though you're not sure you really do want to see it. This den is different. There's no community here, no decoration, no pretense of anything except chemical escape. It's just a cellar, damp and dark, lined with crude wooden bunks. The people here are in worse shape. Their clothes are rags, their bodies emaciated, their eyes empty. These aren't workers seeking relief from pain. These are addicts, long past the point of any pretense.
The end stage, Jack says quietly.
when opium stops being medicine or recreation and becomes the only thing that matters. These people have lost everything: jobs, families, homes, health. All they have left is the next pipe. A man on one of the bunks reaches out as you pass. His hand is skeletal, his face aged beyond any reasonable years. "Spare a penny," he croaks, "just a penny for the pipe." You give him a coin, knowing it won't help, knowing it might make things worse, but unable to refuse that desperate plea. "He'll be dead soon," Jack says matter-of-factly. "A month, maybe 2. Starvation, disease, or just the opium itself shutting down his body. And then someone else will take his bunk, and the cycle continues." Can't anyone help him? Help him out? There are missions that try, offer food, shelter, religion in exchange for giving up the pipe. Some people take the deal. Most don't, or can't. Addiction is stronger than hunger, stronger than cold, sometimes stronger than the will to live. You leave the second den feeling sick. The contrast between Mr. Chen's sanctuary and this death house is stark. Same drug, completely different worlds. The tunnel ahead is busier. You're approaching what Jack calls the crossroads of the East End, a major junction where multiple underground routes converge. It's similar to the Thames Connection market, but more chaotic, less organised. People are everywhere, moving in all directions, calling out in multiple languages, buying, selling, arguing, living. "This is the heart of underground London," Jack shouts over the noise. "Everything flows through here. Goods, information, people. If you want to find someone, learn something, or get lost, this is the place." You're jostled by the crowd. A woman carrying a basket of something that smells like fish pushes past. A man with a cart full of rags nearly runs over your foot. Children dart between adults like they're playing a game, but their eyes are too serious for play. They're working. Pickpockets probably, or messengers. Jack grabs your arm and pulls you to the side, out of the main flow of traffic. "Stay close," he warns. "This place can be dangerous. Not everyone respects the rules here." You see what he means. In a corner, 2 men are fighting. Actually fighting, not just arguing. Others gather around, watching, shouting encouragement or insults. No one intervenes. Eventually, one man goes down and the other walks away. The loser lies there for a moment, then drags himself to his feet and limps off. The crowd disperses, already forgetting. "Violence is supposed to be forbidden," Jack says, "but enforcement is harder here than at the Thames Connection. The Sewer King's authority doesn't extend this far east. Here it's more anarchic." Despite the danger, there's also a strange vitality to the place. This is humanity at its rawest, most desperate, most alive. People are fighting to survive, but they're fighting. They haven't given up. There's music coming from somewhere, a fiddle playing a lively tune. People are laughing, despite everything. Life persists. Jack leads you through the crowd to a quieter corner where an old woman sits on a box sorting through a pile of clothes. She looks up as you approach and breaks into a gap-toothed smile. "Jack Blackwater, you old rat! Haven't seen you in months." "Maggie the rag, I see," Jack greets her warmly. "Still sorting through London's cast-offs, I see. Someone has to. These clothes still have wear in 'em. I clean 'em up, mend 'em, and sell 'em for pennies. It's honest work. More honest than most around here." Jack introduces you, and Maggie eyes you with interest. "The chronicler, eh? About time someone wrote down our stories. Newspapers only care about us when they can make us sound scary or pitiful. Never mind that we're just people trying to get by." "Tell 'em about the rookery," Jack suggests. Maggie's face fades. "The rookery, yes. You want to know about real London, chronicler? That's where you need to go. But it's dangerous. More dangerous than anything you've seen so far." "What is it?" you ask. The rookery is what we call the worst parts of the East End Underground, areas where law doesn't reach, where even the Underground's loose rules don't apply. Criminal hideouts primarily. Gangs control different sections. Thieves, murderers, fugitives from every corner of the empire. If you're running from something bad enough, you end up in the rookery.
And if you go in unprepared, Maggie adds, you don't come out, or you come out without your money, your clothes.
maybe without your life. Can we go there? You ask Jack. He looks uncertain. It's risky. Very risky. I know some people in the rookery. I can probably get us through safely, but there are no guarantees. You sure you want to do this? You think about everything you've seen so far. The bone collectors, the Thames Connection, the Workhouse, the Opium dens. The chronicler in you needs to see it all, to document the full spectrum of underground life, even the parts that might get you killed. I'm sure, you say. Jack sighs. All right, but we do this my way. You follow my lead exactly. You don't speak unless I say it's safe, and if I say run, you run. Understood? Understood. Maggie shakes her head. You're both mad, but here. She digs through her pile of clothes and pulls out a dark coat, ragged but serviceable. Wear this. Your surface clothes mark you as prey in the rookery. Look poor, you might survive. You trade your good coat for the ragged one. Jack is right. It helps. You look like you belong in the underground now. Just another poor soul trying to survive in the darkness. The tunnel to the rookery descends sharply. The walls become rougher, the floor uneven. There's no lighting here. You rely entirely on Jack's lamp. The darkness feels oppressive, heavy, like it has weight. The rookery starts about 100 yards ahead, Jack whispers. From here on, silence, unless necessary. You walk in single file, Jack ahead, you behind. The tunnel narrows to the point where you have to turn sideways in places. Your coat catches on rough stone, tears further. You don't care. The tunnel opens into a small chamber, and Jack stopped so abruptly you nearly ran into him. In the lamplight, you can see why. There are people here. 3 of them, sitting around a small fire that shouldn't be possible this far underground, but somehow is. They're armed. You can see knives, a club, maybe a pistol tucked into one man's belt. Jack Blackwater, says one of them, a woman with a scar running down her face. Long time no see. What brings you to our territory? Just passing through, Scarlet Kate. Taking the chronicler to see the rookery. We're not here for trouble. Chronicler, eh? Kate looks you over. What's someone from the surface want with our miserable holes? To document it, you say, finding your voice. To remember. To make sure people know you exist. Kate snorts. People know we exist. They just wish we didn't. But fine. You want to see the rookery. See it. Maybe you'll write something that makes the surface folk understand why we're here, why we choose this over what they offer. She stands and gestures for you to follow. The other 2 men stay by the fire, watching you go with expressions that suggest they're calculating whether you're worth robbing and deciding you're not. The rookery is a nightmare made architectural. It's not one large space, but a warren of interconnected chambers, tunnels, and alcoves. Some areas are lit by fires or stolen lanterns. Others are pitch black. People are everywhere, sleeping in corners, cooking over fires, talking in low voices, watching everyone who passes with suspicious eyes. This is the first circle, Kate explains, the relatively safe part. The deeper you go, the worse it gets. Down in the 3rd circle, even I don't go unless I have good reason and plenty of backup. You see families here, couples, children, even infants, living in conditions that make the workhouse look comfortable. No beds, just piles of rags. No privacy, just curtains made of torn cloth. The smell is indescribable. Human waste, rot, smoke, despair. Jack leads you away from the rookery at a steady pace. You don't speak. There are no words for what you've just witnessed. The tunnel climbs steadily, and you realize you're ascending toward the surface. After so many hours in the underground, the thought of daylight is both appealing and terrifying. It's nearly dawn, Jack says softly. I'm going to take you out near where we started, full circle. You walk through tunnels that have become almost familiar now. You recognize certain marks on the walls, certain turns. The underground's geography has imprinted itself on your memory, though you know you could never navigate it alone. You pass through the Thames Connection one last time. The market is closed, the vault empty except for a few mudlarks preparing for the morning tide. The sewer king stands by the river gate,
his masked face turned toward the water. He doesn't acknowledge you, but you feel his awareness. Up through the storm drains, past the junction where the tosher marks bloom on the walls, up through passages that grow lighter as dawn approaches the surface. You can smell fresh air now, cold and sharp after the underground's thick atmosphere. Jack stops at a ladder you recognize, the same one you descended so many hours ago. Above, you can see gray light filtering through the grating. "This is where I leave you," Jack says softly. "The underground is no place for me in daylight." "Will I see you again?" you ask. He shrugs. "Maybe. If you come back down, if you really do write about us, I'll hear about it. Word travels fast in the tunnels. If you tell the truth, if you remember us properly, maybe I'll find you, buy you a drink on the surface, see what daylight looks like again." You reach into your bag and pull out money, more than you agreed to pay, much more. For the tour, for the stories, for everything. He takes it with a nod of gratitude. "This'll keep me fed for a month. Thank you." He pauses, then adds, "You're not like most surface folk. You looked. You really looked. Most people, they see what they want to see, what confirms what they already believe, but you saw us. Thank you for that. Thank you for showing me, for trusting me." You shake hands and then you climb. Up the ladder, 20 rungs to the surface. The grating is still pulled aside. You emerge into a London dawn, the sky streaked with pink and gold, the fog beginning to lift. You're in an alley you don't recognize, though it must be near where you started. The city is waking up. You can hear church bells, the first carriages on distant streets, a milkman's cart rattling past the alley's entrance. You look back down into the drain. Jack is already gone, faded into the shadows. The underground has swallowed him again. For a moment, you consider climbing back down. The surface seems harsh and bright and too real after your night in the underground. But you're exhausted, filthy, and you have a story to write. Multiple stories. A whole book's worth of stories. You walk through the awakening city like a ghost. Your clothes are ruined, muddy, torn, reeking of sewers and river and smoke. People give you wide berth, assuming you're a vagrant or a drunk stumbling home. No one sees the notebook in your bag, the letters from the Thames, the bone from the bone collectors, the jade figurine from Mr. Chen. No one knows where you've been or what you've seen. You make your way to your lodgings, lock the door behind you, and sit at your desk while dawn light fills the room. You open your notebook and begin to write. You write about Jack Blackwater and his blue-green phosphorescent lantern, about the bone collectors and their cathedral of the dead, about Professor Marsh and Grandmother Mercy and Silent Sam, about the Mudlarks on the shore and the market at the Thames Connection, about the singing woman whose voice still echoes in your memory, about the Walbrook flowing eternally beneath London, remembering when it was wild.
You write about the workhouse and its systematic cruelty, about the opium dens, both sanctuary and death house, about the rookery's 3 circles of desperation. You write about the children, the lost children, living entire lives in darkness. You write until your hand cramps, until the ink runs low, until the words blur on the page. You write because Jack was right. Someone needs to remember. Someone needs to document the forgotten people, the underground people, the people who exist in the shadows beneath the city's feet. When you finally stop, it's mid-morning. The room is warm with sunlight. Outside, London goes about its business, completely unaware of the vast shadow world that exists beneath it. The respectable people in their respectable homes, doing their respectable work, never knowing about the thousands who live underground, who survive in the margins, who chose freedom in the dark over captivity in the light. You go to your window and look out at the city. Somewhere below those streets, beneath those buildings, Jack is walking through tunnels. The bone collectors are arranging their memorial. Grandmother Mercy is tending to someone's wounds. The Mudlarks are waiting for low tide. The children are playing in the deep passages. Life continues in the underground, invisible but persistent. You touch the jade figurine Mr. Chen gave you, feeling its smooth surface. Then you return to your desk and keep writing. The story needs to be told. The underground needs to be remembered. Not prettified or sensationalized, but seen clearly for what it is: a refuge and a prison, a community and a warning, a testament to human resilience and human cruelty existing side by side. Hours pass. The sun crosses the sky. You barely notice. You're back underground in your mind, walking those tunnels, seeing those faces, hearing those voices. By evening, you've filled 30 pages. It's not enough. You'll need hundreds more to tell it all properly, but it's a start. You've documented the forgotten. You've given voice to the voiceless. You've remembered those the city would prefer to forget. As darkness falls again, you find yourself wondering what's happening in the underground right now. Is the Thames Connection market opening as the tide goes out? Are the bone collectors lighting their candles for the plague dead? Is Jack guiding another curious soul through the tunnels? You'll never know for sure. The underground keeps its secrets from surface dwellers, revealing them only to those brave or desperate enough to descend. But you've seen enough. You've been trusted with their stories, and you'll honor that trust by writing them down, by making sure someone remembers. You light a candle and continue writing into the night. The words flow like water through stone, steady and persistent, carving channels through forgetfulness.
Epilogue. Sleep in the shadow. And now, dear listener, you've walked with me through London's forgotten depths. You've seen what hides beneath the respectable surface. You've met the people history tried to erase. As you lie in your warm bed, in your safe room, let these images drift through your mind, not to disturb, but to soothe. There's something oddly peaceful about the underground, the steady drip of water, the eternal darkness, the sense of being held by the earth itself. Imagine Jack Blackwater walking through those tunnels right now, his blue-green lantern casting strange shadows. Imagine the bone collectors at their endless work, creating beauty from death. Imagine the underground river flowing through its stone cathedral, patient and eternal. Let your breathing slow to match the rhythm of that river, in and out, like water through stone, steady, ancient, unstoppable. The underground teaches us that there are layers to everything. Beneath our surface lives, there are depths. Beneath our conscious minds, there are dreams. Beneath our busy days, there are quiet nights like this one, where we can rest and restore ourselves. You're safe in your bed, far from the cold water and dark tunnels. But in your dreams tonight, you might walk those passages again. You might hear the singing woman's voice echoing through the stone. You might see the mudlarks working the shore, or the market bustling at the Thames Connection.
And if you do, don't be afraid. The underground in dreams is gentler than the underground in life. It's a place where the forgotten are remembered, where the lost are found, where darkness is a comfort rather than a threat. Let yourself sink into sleep now, like descending into the earth, down through the layers of consciousness, past the surface thoughts, into the deeper places where dreams live. Jack Blackwater is down there, waiting with his lantern. Grandmother Mercy has prepared tea. The bone collectors have arranged something beautiful just for you. And the underground river flows on, eternal and patient, ready to carry you into peaceful sleep. Breathe in and out, like water through stone. Down into the darkness, down into rest, down into dreams. The underground remembers you. The tunnels hold you safe. The darkness wraps around you like a blanket. And in the morning, you'll wake to sunlight and surface life, carrying with you the memory of the depths, the knowledge that beneath everything we see, there are worlds we've forgotten, stories we need to hear, people we need to remember. But for now, just sleep. Drift down into the peaceful dark. Let the underground river carry you away. Good night, chronicler. Good night, dreamer. Good night, friend of the forgotten. The tunnels will be here when you wake, waiting patiently in the darkness beneath the city. And Jack Blackwater will be walking them, lantern in hand, ready to guide the next curious soul who dares to descend. Sleep well, sleep deep, sleep in the shadow of the underground. And remember, we're all just trying to survive, whether in darkness or in light. We're all just looking for a place to belong. The underground knows this. The underground remembers. And now, so do you. Good night.